Okay, Dr. Owen, are you with us there?
Here, thank you.
Okay, well, as I say, I wanted to apologize to you and our listeners there. We ran into a technical hurdle we hadn't expected there. But anyway, our reason for wanting to chat with you this morning was, of course, all the focus on the COVID vaccines and perhaps seeing a little bit of light at the end of that tunnel. I was interested, you spoke with a national news organization fairly recently, and it gladdened my heart to know that they were paying attention to us finally. And you had some wonderful things to say, and I wanted to see if we couldn't get you to share some of your thoughts there. So first of all, you're with the Association of American Indian Physicians. Can you give me a real quick capsule of your organization?
Sure. I'm actually the president of the association right now, and we are about to celebrate our 50th year. The association was developed to respond to the need for Native American physicians to help improve our health. We all know we do better when we are treated by people who we relate to, and that's what this is about, what AAIP is about.
All right. Now, the focus of that national interview was, of course, the vaccines and how the COVID-19 virus is affecting our nation. But in working with Native American people and other physicians, how would you describe the situation facing our Native people across the nation? You know, we've got some tribes that are doing a lot toward getting their people vaccinated, but then we unfortunately keep hearing about more Navajo or Dene people being lost to this virus. So how would you describe it?
Overwhelming, but nothing new is the way that I would describe it, because we've been here before, right? We had, it's just far greater numbers than we've seen in the past. But, you know, we have been through this with H1N1 in 2009. We were hit at 4 times the rate of other populations. This time it seems to be 2 times that of white folks. So, and white folks are being hit so much harder. So that just tells you everybody's being hit so much harder. That just tells you the grand scale of it. So all over the nation, it's not just Navajo, though they certainly seem to have taken the brunt of it, which and people in the Southwest, which is horrific. But all over our country, particularly in areas, you know, when you have a community that is only, say, 1,000 people, you hit 1% of them. That's significant. And we all know how close we are tied as Native people in our communities. The death of one person impacts so many more of us because of our connection.
Yeah, what you said there at the top of your response there is intriguing. It kind of brings to thought, is there any genetic difference, do you think, between our Native people and the dominant society that might cause this schism?
No, I would push against that wholeheartedly. For one thing, how do we define Native people? We're not defined by our blood per se, and you're not going to find, you know, how do we judge one Native person from another? We leave that up to our tribal governments to decide who's Native and who's not. You don't do it by biology, and you're going to make a mistake that way. We are more susceptible because of the social and economic positions we find ourselves in. You know, we were moved onto the poorest land with no economic base, and then we're told to make a living there and in ways that were foreign to us, and we have been picking ourselves up ever since. We also, 70% of us now live in urban areas, and it's not because we necessarily liked urban areas more than we liked the land that we originally were on, but it's because we were terminated, our tribes were terminated, our land was reallocated, and there was this massive push to get us into urban areas, and we're still recovering from all of those factors. They managed to keep us in poverty, many of us, not all of us, obviously, but 25% at least. And if you look at the national poverty guidelines, you see that that's a pretty low number. So actually closer to 40% of us are probably barely making it. So those are the factors that make us more susceptible.
Yeah, it makes me feel like I'm in that 40%.
I don't know. And I apologize.
No.
It makes me crazy to blame our genetics or something that is inherent in us, that it has nothing to do with that.
Right. Yes, thank you, ma'am. I sure appreciate hearing that. Now, is it because we're a tribal society? You referred to it a couple of times there. We're closer to our families and our communities. places where we gather and get together, religious institutions, our churches are very tight. Is it that tribal society, do you think, that has some effect on it?
I think those are the things that save us. Maybe we came together more often and we were spreading infection occasionally more often because of that, but we also are together because we support one another. And for folks who don't have a home, others welcome them in. We have crowded living spaces because of that, because we are holding each other up in community. That might at times make us more susceptible, but I also think that that's the thing that has saved us through hundreds of years. So, there's that common phrase that's told to me very often: your strength is your weakness is your strength. So,
yeah. Now, it
happens to be helping us with this vaccine, though, that community connection that we have. Seattle Urban Indian Health Institute, and I might have slaughtered their name, I apologize. They just did a nice study that you can look on their website about, but at least the majority of Native people who are getting the vaccine, and we are getting the vaccine, majority of Native people are doing it because they believe in their community and they're supporting their community. That's powerful.
Marvelous. Now, that's actually the next area. The next question I was going to move to is how does the vaccine being accepted? Now, can you draw a conclusion there about us nationally, or perhaps some speculation that gives us an idea how are we doing? Are we really moving toward getting those vaccines?
We seem to be doing great as far as our communities. Again, as that study pointed out, and that was a national study, our communities are interested in getting vaccinated to support one another, to support the entire community. We also know that the Indian Health Service and our Tribal Health Service is built on a public health model, so we've been able to distribute the vaccine when we have it. The key is when we have it, and that has not been necessarily because the IHS or the states haven't done such a great job. We're limited by the vaccines that are available to us. Maybe sometimes it's not as organized as we'd like, but I think that our tribal and IHS have done a pretty good job in getting this out, and our communities have done an amazing job at recognizing the importance of it.
Well, that's so wonderful to hear. Now, in several cases, particularly here in Oklahoma, we're seeing where our tribes are kind of leading the pack there in serving our own people and then opening our doors to the rest of our community. Have you seen that happening?
Absolutely, everywhere. Also, in your part of the country, national news, where the tribe said, we're going to do it our way, and we're going to take care of the people that we thought and important to preserving who we are. That was so key in telling the nation that we are sovereign people. We will do it the way that we know takes care of us. I love that.
Yes, and it's good to hear, because for a bit there we didn't really hear from IHS, although they were perhaps getting the task dealt with. No press releases or a lot of publicity was going out about that kind of job. Now, is that, as you scan the nation here and the 500 plus tribes we have, is there one particular area that's doing better than others? Now, you mentioned Oklahoma, which makes me proud, but how does that break down, and what do you see?
Well, I'm biased. I'm Tlingit, so I think Alaska does everything better, but I don't know that one place is better than another. I just know that your area, like you said, is doing great. I know that I actually know Navajo is doing great. They are getting that vaccine out, and people are taking it up. So I don't know that there's one of us that's doing better, and I think the point being that all of us are doing better together, like we always do as Native people. We come together as community.
Mm-hmm. I should have opened this up with Gunesh Chish.
Goodness, geez.
Yeah, I spent some time in Alaska and picked up a lot of stuff up there. Just amazing place, and the strength of the Native people there is just fantastic. Now, as we look to the future now, we've changed administrations in the nation's capital. New people are going in with plans and more activity and things getting done. What do you see the future looking like?
Well, I'm hopeful that we're going to finally get some increased funding for the Indian Health Service. We have a new administration who recognizes, plus it has been, even though we have not been out in the news as much as we know we should have been, we still have the problems and visibility of Native people in our health concerns. I think the message is getting out thanks to some good research sites like APM Research, which I would recommend everybody take a look at. and then the news that picks up on that same research and spreads it. So I think people are starting to be more aware of the conditions that we have to deal with, health diseases in, and have to combat diseases within. And I think, I've talked with folks in the IHS, and they do feel like they're getting better reception, and people are more aware of us. So fingers crossed. Also, because we work with a public health on a public health model, we have a better chance of serving our communities the way that they should if we're actually able to fund those efforts, those public health efforts. So I'm hopeful. I'm really hopeful.
Well, here's another, I think, ray of sunshine here. Something that makes us all a little more hopeful is the confirmation of Deb Haaland as Interior Secretary. Ms. Haaland has, obviously, she's Laguna Pueblo and knows Native American affairs. Does she present some real hope and direction there as she assumes her job?
Absolutely. Just the fact, we deal with this invisibility. We've got a Native person on the cabinet. That is so, it's hard to even express how amazing this is. And not only a Native person, but someone who has a long history of serving Native people. I was just writing to someone that in general, Native people don't recognize status as much as we do, as we recognize what someone has contributed to our community. And Deb Haaland has done that work. So Secretary Deb Haaland has done that work. So this is incredible. She's going to continue to serve us in so many ways. Right.
And of course, she's got quite a task ahead of her with a Congress that's about half hostile and then trying to rebuild. All right.
Well, she shows she can do it by getting to where she's at right now. So.
Yes. Dr. Owen, thank you so much. As I say, we're a little pressed for time in this show today, but we'd like to speak with you again in the future about a couple of other things kicking around in my head, so it'll be good to come back and get to talk with you again.
That sounds terrific. I'll get rid of that problem on my phone so you can reach me more easily.
Yeah, it did put me through a couple of moments of real panic there for a second. So.
I apologize.
No problem. But
Finish. Take care.
Okay. That was Dr. Mary Owen with the Association of American Indian Physicians. We're going to take a short pause here and try and catch up with the rest of our show, and we'll be right back. Hopefully we'll talk a little bit about Women's History Month, so stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio.
I started doing it when I was 11. I wanted to be just like my big brother. And some of my friends were already doing it. We got hooked fast. I just can't get enough. I'm Jacob, and I'm addicted to playing the drums.
There's lots of stuff that makes it cool to be Native. Doing meth isn't one of them. Find something better to do. Check out ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Hear that? That's the sound of hope being killed by meth. Methamphetamine use is causing huge problems in our community. Hear that? That's the sound of something you can do about it. Events like rodeo, res ball, and family time can help keep kids away from meth.
Talk to your kids. Keep our culture alive. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Learn more at ncai.org.
Spend your weekend with the Tulsa Oilers at the BOK Center this Saturday and Sunday. Come cheer on the Oilers as they face off against division rivals, the Allen American. Puck drops 7:05 p.m. on Saturday night and 4:05 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. Buy tickets today by phone or text 918-632-7825 or online at TulsaOilers.com. Tulsa Oilers Hockey. Fun for the entire family. Tulsa Oilers Hockey this Saturday and Sunday at the BOK Center.
Okay, welcome back to Mvskoke Radio and our abbreviated program. We're going to open up the line here for Ms. Isabel Coronado. Ms. Coronado, are you with us?
I'm here.
Okay, great. Now, we were looking at resource people we could call on to talk about the Women's History Month. And of course, that's an important topic to Native American people. But first of all, which group or organization are you with?
I'm a policy entrepreneur with the Next 100, which is a progressive think tank for the next generation of policy leaders.
Okay, we got a little technical problem there on the phone line, but I think we'll get through it. As I said, this is being recognized as Women's History Month. Now, looking at that topic, how important is that to Native American women?
Well, I mean, especially for the Mvskoke Creek women, how we are a matrilineal society, I think it's incredibly important that we are uplifting our women, and that we do that every day anyways. I mean, there's such a central focus in all of our lives, and I would say it's super important.
Now, with this opportunity for this recognition, what do you think it does to elevate the visibility and recognition for our Native women?
So the recognition, I think, is during these times, we're uplifting the issues, but also uplifting the people that are doing great things. I know right now we're always talking about missing and murdered Indigenous women, the mass incarceration of Indigenous women, but we also have so much resiliency and so many amazing women doing so many different things, from advocacy to getting bills passed to just seeking so much change. So I think this time is a really great time to be uplifting those stories as well.
Let me ask you to kind of speculate for me here, or answer this question out of the blue. What Native women do you think are deserving of recognition and remembrance, like in our history, all the way back to when the colonials first stepped foot on the shore? Are there any Native women that come to mind that you think that we ought to be honoring and remembering there?
Of course. I would just say there's so many that deserve the recognition. But I mean, for me, I would just have to go back to my matrilineal and the women in my family that I look up to, like women feeding the community, or just giving back. But like the other people, recognizable people that have led to, like, with the confirmation of Representative Deb Haaland, who's now the Secretary of the Interior. I mean, been an accumulation of women pushing that forward, and so many more are going to be coming out of that.
Right, and they're from all over the country and in our history. You mentioned Ms. Haaland and her recent confirmation. There are other women who have kind of walked the halls of Capitol Hill and made some impression on a lot of people. From Oklahoma here, that might include LaDonna Harris and Wilma Mankiller. Those are two names that come to mind real quick. Any other thoughts or ideas along that line?
I don't have any thoughts along the line, but just thinking as the youth, and as speaking as a youth, that we're looking up to those women and just trying to emulate. And I mean, as we are trying to forward progress, just relying on our ancestors and how what they've done, like Wilma Mankiller and Loretta. We're really watching them, and they make a difference in our upcoming lives.
Mm-hmm. Now, as we go along here, we're going to see, let's go back to Ms. Haaland, taking on a heck of a lot of challenges from some very powerful, let's call them opponents, opposition, people who did not vote for her. What kind of job do you think she's going to be able to do?
I have so much faith in Representative Haaland, Secretary Haaland now, because having worked with her previously when she was in the House of Representatives, like she says, she's fierce, and she's a fierce woman. And so I have no doubt yet, even through the opposition, she's going to be fierce for all of us. She's going to do what she needs to do to protect our land and continue building back trust with the nation to nation government relationships. And I just have so much hope, and I'm so excited to see what she does.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. We're going to possibly get a chance to have kind of a virtual press conference with Secretary Holland later today. So we'll see how that one comes out. Now, I tell you what, if you were wanting to leave a closing thought with our listeners about the importance of Women's History Month, and particularly Indian women's role in our history, what would that be? What phrase, word, thought?
I would say perseverance is my word I would use as a closing thought. From everything that we've gone through, from our forced removal from Georgia, Alabama to Oklahoma, and how we've been able to still thrive, and we're still here today, doing incredible things with, the vaccine rollout and, protecting our people. It's all in our women's perseverance. And so I'm so incredibly grateful to be from the community of really, really rich women, and they're so proud to represent.
Okay, well, great. Well, I tell you what, we'll get out of your way. I appreciate you being available to talk with me this morning. And we'll keep your name and number on file here, and probably see about getting a chance to speak with you again. So, Mado, Haram Hijathis, we'll talk to you again.
Mado, bye.
Okay, Isabel Golden. Now we're going to take another pause here in today's panic edition of Mvskoke Radio, and we'll try and be back with our wonderfully accomplished lady, Joy Harjo. She's got some new music for us. Stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio, here on The Brew.
Hear that? That's the sound of hope being killed by meth. Methamphetamine use is causing huge problems in our community. Hear that? That's the sound of something you can do about it. Events like rodeo, res ball, and family time can help keep kids away from meth.
Talk to your kids. Keep our culture alive. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Learn more at ncai.org. Hear that? That's the sound of hope being killed by meth. Methamphetamine use is causing huge problems in our community. Hear that? That's the sound of something you can do about it. Events like rodeo, res ball, and family time can help keep kids away from meth.
Talk to your kids. Keep our culture alive. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Learn more at ncai.org.
Welcome back to Mvskoke Radio here on The Brew. We have on the line Joy Harjo. Are you with us there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yay, here's one that worked without any problems this morning. You heard the rest of the show. We had about a 5-minute musical interlude brought to you by Mvskoke Radio. Speaking of music, among everything else you're doing, my gosh, you've managed to put together some new music to offer to the world. An intriguing piece called I Pray for My Enemy, a heavily jazz-oriented piece, would you say? How would you describe your new offering there?
I think it is jazzy. It's rock, kind of rock, jazzy, Mvskoke, Mvskoke music. And people hear a saxophone and think jazz. But it is. I love jazz playing, but it mixes it up. It's a mix-up. I have some of the best grunge rock guitarists on there in the country. Also, from Black Crowes, I have Chris Novoselic from Nirvana. It does a guest appearance. Peter Buck from REM. Yeah, so it's quite a mix-up.
A bit of a who's who of professional musicians, studio guys, and out front performers there, right? You know what? Let's take a short pause here and listen to a piece of this. I'm not sure that you can hear it with this particular setup, so if it goes quiet here for a minute, just don't leave me, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
This morning I pray for my enemies. And whom do I call my enemy? An enemy must be worthy of engagement. I turn in the direction of the sun and keep walking. It's the heart that asks the question, not my furious mind. The heart is the smaller cousin of the sun. It sees and knows everything. It hears the gnashing, even as it hears the blessing. The door to the mind should only open from the heart. An enemy who gets in risks the danger of becoming a friend. This morning I pray for my enemy. And whom do I call my enemy? This morning I pray for my enemy. And whom do I call my enemy? This morning I pray for my enemy. And whom do I call my enemy? This morning I pray for my enemy. And whom do I call my enemy? This morning I pray for my enemy. And whom do I call my enemy? This morning.
Okay, we'll take run back to our discussion with you. How would first of all, where did you get that title? I pray for my enemies.
It was a poem that I wrote some time ago, and I don't know how these things always come to me. I don't sit down and think, well, I'm going to write a poem, and this is the title, and this is what I'm going to do. It kind of comes to me, and sometimes I think it's, when you delve into creativity or into the imagination, you go into that place that makes plants grow, and things come to me. I feel like I'm given things I need to learn. Often I'm given things I need to learn, or poetry shows me something, or it becomes a place to go when you don't have the words. And so that it started with that poem, and that poem has become, it always it taught me something. And then the song came from that. I have 2 songs on there I sing, and I sing throughout in different, I sing, and I also have joining me on, I have Stomp All Night, which is particularly a Muskogean influence, and I have Marissa Sepulpa and Sandra Sepulpa singing with me on that song. And I think they were on this one too, singing.
Yeah, we noticed the credits there. Now, the inspiration for creativity has always intrigued me. A kind of a meat and potatoes type when it comes to being creative. But in reading that title, I get the impression that there might be some sort of forgiveness going on when I pray for my enemies. It's the philosophy of so many religions and disciplines. Could you explain a little bit more what you're achieving there?
Well, I think it's also very, it comes from, if you think about Mvskokean philosophy, when in the new year, you're supposed to let things go. It's about letting go so you can start over fresh, so everyone gets to start over in a manner in which it opens up the circle of the heart to do that, to make essentially a new year, and we all need that with ourselves and with each other. And so I think the concept, yes, people can say, well, it's from different traditions around the world, but the tradition sits right here at home.
Right. A new beginning is quite appropriate after the disaster of a year we just had in 2020.
That's for sure.
Yeah, the music here is, it's got your imprint so deeply in it. And I'm wondering, how do you find time to do stuff like this and on top of everything else? I mean, United States Poet Laureate for a third time, and other foundation and state and worldwide recognition. And of course, coming home to Oklahoma, it's almost green corn season here. How do you do it? I mean, how do you find time? And then probably try and have a home life with you and your husband, Owen. I mean, gosh, I'm overwhelmed in looking at it, but maybe you could share that.
Well, I always ask for help spiritually, and right now, and then I have a great assistant, Jennifer Forrester. She's of the Perryman family, and she's long distance, but I'm looking for an on-the-ground assistant right now. But, yeah, right now it's a little tough. There's a lot going on. I have 3 projects out, and I'm chair of the board for Native Arts and Cultures Foundation, and the Mvskoke Youth group is really important to me. Yeah, it's gotten there is a lot going on right now, and I keep thinking, well, after this third term will end, I think it ends May 2022, and everyone is invited to D.C. the last week of April for we're going to have, I think, a Tribe Called Red there. We want to have a dance party, and then we'll be featuring Native poets through the week. So it will end there, so that I have, so that's been a lot of work, being in this position as Poet Laureate. And actually, after this call, I go on, we're putting together a toolkit for teachers for contemporary Native poetry. And there's a site up now on the Library of Congress site. Anybody can access it that shows Native poets in this country and where they live. And they read a poem, and then they talk about place. But yes, right now it's a bit of a tight squeeze, and one of the things I love most is hanging out with family, and the pandemic, of course, has kind of skewed that a little for everyone. So like everyone else, I'm waiting for this to open.
We were going to go in that direction, see if the COVID had affected your work or anything else. And speaking of being squeezed for time, I understand you just practically got off the line with our old colleague Mark Trahant.
Yes, it was nice to see them. A lot of these people are doing a lot of radio. I'm learning are on Zoom.
Yeah,
so I got to see him, and Shirley Sneevy's over there now too.
Right. First time I saw her, last time I saw her, I practically almost didn't recognize her. I thought, oh my God, I'm getting so old here. All this stuff's slipping away. And of course, Mark's starting to get a little grayer there and a little more chiefy, as some people called it. Now, as we see this kind of thing happening, the spotlight's been on you for such a period here after the first announcement of the Poet Laureate position, and then other wonderful things happened to you since. What do you think about that? All the attention now that you're able to bring to Native concerns and issues and people. I mean, you're kind of a flag bearer for us. So, what do you think about that?
Well, I try to turn it towards the people, and that's what the position is about. It's really about opening a doorway for Native people, and that's what's exciting about it, is to be able to, it's not about just about me, but it's about opening doors for Native people and our Mvskoke people in the country and in the world. So that's what's been really exciting about it. I'm, I feel like that whatever comes my way, I'm carrying it not just for me, but it has to do with the generations, and it has to do with, turning it back to some good use. And so right now I'm just trying to make use of that time to be useful, to be helpful, and in any way that I can.
Marvelous.
But, what happens too, and so I apologize to anybody. I've been so inundated that I cannot do everything I'm asked, and I work long hours. And sometimes I'm asked to do things that I really want to do, but there is just I need breathing time. And I figure this will go on for, I have a new memoir coming out in September, and I figure I have, until the poet laureateship ends, and then I plan to stay home more, and I'm going to start I used to be a painter, and that's what I want to start doing again, is painting again and being a little more low-key and at home with everybody.
Okay, well, the north side of my house sure could use some work.
I have plenty here, but
as we have watched this thing happen, there was a frenzy of attention about you from national news sources about your the honors that you'd been I don't want to say been given, but that you earned, and other things in that poet position. How do you think you might have affected America's conception of Native people? I mean, you've got to recognize that you've made some difference, and so how would you categorize that, or how would you say that maybe you've been effective?
I think I'm part. It's not just me, but there seems to be there are several events that have done that in this country. There's the landmark decision that says right now in Tulsa, I'm in the Mvskoke Creek Nation Reservation, something we always knew. There's that decision put us in the spotlight. Certainly, a Native being appointed to any high position in this country, like West Studi and acting, it has the potential to open the door. And now Deb Holland, who has also, been in Creek country, and I took her out to stomp dance with me, and she's been with our people. She was and now she's, it's so exciting and intense to see her in the position of, now Madam Secretary, in the Department of Interior. And she's been, she's the real deal. She's been walking her talk for years. I knew her when she was a returning student coming back to school at the University of New Mexico, and she came into my office with her motorcycle helmet. That's how she used to get around. And asked if she could take my poetry workshop, and I said, of course. And she's a good poet. She's a good writer. She's written articles, before all this. She wrote articles that were published in Mexico Magazine and so on. And then she went on because what was always driving her, and it still is the need for certainly equity in this country, but it's caretaking of this place, the resources, the caretaking of the resources of our Mother Earth, and this earth that gives us so much, and we ask yet so little for human beings, because she could have gotten rid of us a long time ago, and certainly we haven't been the best stewards overall.
While we're on that particular subject, she was confirmed with a 51-40 vote in the Senate. And all of Oklahoma's congressional representation there voted against her.
Yes, I noted that.
Yeah, and of course, you've got tribes on both sides of that question. People who are staunchly defenders of the earth and no more drilling, no more fracking, et cetera, et cetera. Then you've got other tribes on the other side of that, and I'm not really pointing fingers, but Osages have profited quite nicely from the fossil fuel industry, and so you got thoughts and thinking on both sides of that question, and with our senators voting no. What kind of thought did that leave you? Do you have any speculation or feeling about that?
I do, but that's not something as poet laureate, which is a government it's a government
Okay.
position. And I can't get it. I have a lot to say about that, but nothing that I can say in public.
Okay, well, I understand. I was kind of wondering whether or not you would be able to answer that. So we'll.
Well, bottom line, I mean, it's for everyone. Bottom line, I mean, there are essentially two ways of understanding our presence here in this place called Earth or Gana Jaga, and that is either the Earth is a living person and we are part of that person, and there is no hierarchy or no caste system. We are all here together. Or there's another way of looking that, human beings of particular groups were given dominion over everything, and so everything, it's a free-for-all for resources, and the Earth is basically storage area for resources for anybody who has the money and the power to take.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got a reminder here, we only have one Earth, so we got to take care of it. Okay, well, I tell you what, now as we follow you and your just amazing career, what's next on the horizon?
Well, I'm going to this album. I'm helping get that out. There's a new anthology of contemporary Native poetry, Living Nations, Living Words, that comes out in May, and then my memoir. And I want to spend, I really want to continue working with youth arts mentorship. Working to get have the arts available to any Mvskoke Creek citizen, even, especially youth, but I think all ages. I didn't start, you heard me play saxophone on that tune, and I didn't start playing till I was almost 40.
Oh my
and some people, it's that way. We cannot look. I have to, deal with my own mind about things because I'm almost 70, and I'm bringing out an album of all these grunge musicians, but I try not to look at age in that way and rather see that the spirit has no age, and the arts give so much back. So I would encourage anyone.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll admit that I turned 70 last year, so you got a lot to look forward to, although the old body is starting to complain here and there. All right, well, I tell you what, Joy, I know you're busy. We're going to bring back some of your music, and as we go out of the program, I wanted to say, Mado, are you going to have time for Wild Onion Dinners?
I can always make time for that, except because of the pandemic. Most of them are drive-up, which is safer.
Yeah.
I'm still wary, even though I have both of my vaccines, thanks to to our tribe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still wary until this thing is blown over. So
imagine what our ancestors would think. Drive through wild onions. Ooh, get that out of the way. Well, Joy, thank you again. I appreciate you taking time. We're going to listen to some more of your music as we go wrap this one up. So, Mado.
Okay, Mado, thank you.
You've been listening to Mvskoke Radio. Join us again next week for more local, tribal, and community news and updates. Madot.